This is a story based on true events. Victoria loses her grandmother's precious wedding ring just days before her wedding. Her frantic search leads her to a pet shop where Samuel, an unusually intelligent African grey parrot, takes notice of her distress. Samuel seems to know where the ring is and tries to communicate its location to his owner, Linda, and a regular customer, Rachel. They eventually realize that the ring is likely in an old oak tree outside the shop, a favorite spot for magpies known for their attraction to shiny objects. Please listen until the end to be amazed by this story. Patricia nervously adjusted the necklace around her neck as she walked through the silent halls of the luxurious Andrade mansion. As a newly hired housekeeper, she still felt out of place among the expensive furniture and works of art that decorated each room. The sound of her footsteps echoed on the marble floor as she headed to the main office, where Eduardo Andrade, her employer, had urgently summoned her. Upon entering the office, she found Eduardo seated behind his imposing mahogany desk, his face marked by a grave expression she had never seen before. Beside him, Amelia, his wife, wrung her hands nervously. "Patricia, something very serious has happened," Eduardo began, his voice tense. "The Andrade family ring has disappeared. It is a unique piece, passed down through generations, with an inestimable value not only monetary but sentimental." Patricia felt a chill down her spine. The ring was famous, a stunning piece with a rare blue diamond surrounded by small rubies. She had seen it only once when Amelia wore it to an important dinner. "We've searched everywhere," Amelia continued, her voice trembling. "We've already questioned all the employees, but no one knows anything. You're the only one we really trust, Patricia. I need you to help us find it." Patricia nodded, determined. "I'll do everything I can to help, Mrs. Amelia." What Patricia didn't know was that this search would lead her to discover secrets much deeper than a simple lost ring. In the Andrade mansion, each closed door hid a story, and each person carried their own mysteries. That same night, while organizing some documents in the office, Patricia found something intriguing, an old photograph that had fallen behind one of the files. In it, a young woman wearing the famous ring smiled at the camera. What caught her attention, however, was the date written on the back and a name, Laura. Patricia frowned, confused. The photo was from years ago, but she had never heard of any Laura in the Andrade family. When she turned the photograph over again, she noticed something even more disturbing. The young woman in the photo bore a striking resemblance to Amelia. A sudden noise made her jump. When she turned, she saw Ottavio, the family driver, standing at the office door. His eyes were fixed on the photograph in her hands. "Where did you find that?" he asked, his voice strangely tense. Patricia hesitated, feeling that she had stumbled upon something much bigger than she had imagined. "It was behind the file," she replied, carefully studying the driver's reaction. Ottavio took a step forward, reaching out his hand. "Give me that. There are things in this house that are better left buried in the past." Before Patricia could answer, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Ottavio quickly retreated into the shadows, leaving Patricia alone with the photograph and a million unanswered questions. That night, lying in her bed in the servants' quarters, Patricia couldn't sleep. The image of the mysterious Laura wouldn't leave her mind, nor would Ottavio's disturbing reaction. What was the connection between that old photograph and the disappearance of the ring? And why did everyone seem so nervous about a simple family jewel? What she didn't know was that her discoveries would only scratch the surface of a much deeper and more dangerous mystery, a mystery that began long before she arrived at that house, and that now threatened to come to light, bringing with it secrets that some people would do anything to keep hidden. The next morning, Patricia woke up to the sound of rain hitting the mansion's windows. The grey sky seemed to reflect the somber atmosphere that had hung over the house since the ring's disappearance. As she walked through the corridors carrying out her morning tasks, her mind kept going back to the mysterious photograph and Ottavio's enigmatic reaction. During the staff breakfast, Patricia observed the driver more closely. Ottavio had been at the mansion longer than any other employee, faithfully serving the Andrade family for decades. His behavior that morning, however, seemed different, tenser, more vigilant. His eyes met hers for a brief moment before he quickly looked away. "Did you work with the family when Mrs. Amelia arrived at the mansion?" Patricia casually asked Rosa, the oldest cook in the house. Rosa stopped stirring her coffee, a flicker of something, concern, fear, crossing her face. "I don't like to talk about the past," she replied dryly. "And you should do the same, girl. Some stories are better left buried." The same words Ottavio had used. Patricia felt a shiver run down her spine. Later that day, while organizing some old belongings in the attic at Amelia's request, Patricia found a dusty box hidden behind several others. Inside, there were more old photographs, all carefully arranged in albums. In several of them, the same woman from the previous photo, Laura, appeared next to Eduardo, both young and smiling. In one particular photo, Laura was wearing the missing ring, in the caption a date and a message, "Forever yours, my love. Laura." The sound of footsteps on the attic stairs made Patricia hastily put the photos away. Amelia appeared at the top of the stairs, her face pale in the dim light that entered through the small window. "Did you find anything interesting?" she asked, her voice strangely controlled. "No, ma'am," Patricia lied, her heart racing. "Just some old boxes." Amelia slowly approached, her eyes scanning the room. "You know, Patricia, I've always admired your discretion. It's a rare quality these days." She paused, carefully choosing her next words. "Some people don't understand the importance of keeping certain things secret." Patricia felt the weight of that veiled threat. "Of course, ma'am. I understand perfectly." "Good," Amelia smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, and Patricia, Eduardo and I are giving an important dinner tonight. I need you to help with the preparations." After Amelia left, Patricia remained in the attic for a few moments, her heart still racing. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together, forming a disturbing picture. Laura wasn't just any person in the photos. She had been important to Eduardo. But what had happened to her? And what was the real story behind the missing ring? The dinner that night brought together several members of high society. Patricia discreetly observed while serving the guests, noticing how Amelia seemed especially tense, even while smiling and chatting politely. Eduardo, in turn, barely touched his food, his eyes often lost in distant thoughts. Among the guests was a man Patricia didn't know, but who seemed strangely familiar. His name was Ricardo, and throughout the night, his eyes followed Amelia with a disturbing intensity. At one point, Patricia caught him observing the place where the ring used to be on Amelia's finger, an enigmatic smile on his lips. Later, while collecting wine glasses in the dining room after the guests had left, Patricia heard raised voices coming from the office. She quietly approached the ajar door. "You can't go on with this." Eduardo's voice sounded anguished. "And isn't what happened enough?" "What happened?" Amelia's voice was as sharp as ice. "You mean what you did, what you all did? It was an accident. How many times do I have to repeat it? Laura, don't you dare say her name," Amelia practically screamed. "That ring was the last thing left, and now—" The sound of breaking glass interrupted the conversation. Patricia quickly backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. In her haste, she bumped into someone. It was Ottavio. "You heard, didn't you?" he asked, his expression somber. "Come with me. It's time you knew the truth." Ottavio led her to the mansion's gardens, now plunged into the darkness of the night. The rain had stopped, but the air was still heavy with humidity. They walked to a stone bench hidden among the rose bushes, a place where Patricia had never been before. "It was here," said Ottavio, his voice almost a whisper. "It was here that it all happened." Patricia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold of the night. As Ottavio began his story, she realized that she was about to discover much more than just the whereabouts of a lost ring. The shadows of the past were finally beginning to come to light, and with them, secrets that would forever change the fate of everyone in the Andrade mansion. "Laura was Amelia's sister," revealed Ottavio, his voice heavy with regret. "But no one can know that. No one can know what really happened that night." The revelation hit Patricia like a bolt of lightning. Now she understood the disturbing resemblance between the two women in the photograph, but before she could fully process this information, a sharp scream cut through the night, coming from the direction of the mansion. When Patricia and Ottavio ran back to the house, they found a scene that neither of them would ever forget. The scream that tore through the night came from the master bedroom. Patricia and Ottavio ran upstairs, their footsteps echoing through the empty corridors of the mansion. When they arrived, they found Amelia collapsed on the floor, a crumpled letter in her trembling hands. Eduardo was beside her, trying to calm her down, his face ashen. "She knew," Amelia murmured repeatedly, her voice choked. Laura knew all along. Patricia noticed something shiny on the floor. It was the ring, the very one everyone had been looking for days. It was lying near the bedroom door, as if it had been deliberately left there. "Impossible," whispered Eduardo upon seeing the ring. "How?" Before anyone could say anything else, Rosa appeared at the door, panting. "Ricardo," she said. "He left the mansion in a hurry. I saw his car speeding away." The name made Amelia raise her head sharply. "Ricardo! He was here! In my room!" Patricia observed everything with growing attention. Ricardo's strange behavior during dinner, the mysterious letter, the sudden reappearance of the ring. All the pieces were beginning to form a disturbing pattern. "Mr. Eduardo," called Ottavio, his voice grave, "I think it's time to tell the truth. Everyone needs to know." Eduardo ran a hand over his face and seeming to age years in seconds. "Yes?" he finally agreed. "You need to know what really happened that night." The story that followed was darker than Patricia could have imagined. Laura and Amelia were indeed sisters, but they had been separated as children. While Amelia was raised by a wealthy family, Laura grew up in an orphanage. Years later, fate brought them together in a cruel way. Laura met and fell in love with Eduardo, not knowing that he was engaged to her sister. "The ring," Eduardo continued, his voice trembling, "belonged to their mother. Laura found it among the belongings left at the orphanage. That's how we discovered the truth about their relationship." "But that didn't stop you, did it?" Amelia interrupted bitterly. "You kept seeing Laura even after our wedding." "It's not that simple," Eduardo defended himself. "Laura found out the whole truth, about how your separation from Amelia wasn't accidental, about how the Andrade family orchestrated everything to ensure the inheritance only for one of the sisters." Patricia felt her stomach churn. The magnitude of the betrayal was overwhelming. "On the night of the accident," continued Ottavio, taking over the narrative when Eduardo seemed unable to go on, "Laura came here. She had proof, documents that would incriminate the entire Andrade family. She was determined to expose the truth. But she never got to do it," added Rosa, who had remained silent until then. "The accident on the stairs, it wasn't an accident, was it?" The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia looked at the ring on the floor, now understanding its true meaning. It wasn't just a family jewel, it was proof of a truth that someone had tried to bury. "Ricardo," said Amelia suddenly, her voice firmer. "He was Laura's driver that night. He saw everything. And now he's back," concluded Ottavio, "with the letter Laura wrote before she died." Patricia picked up the letter that had fallen from Amelia's hands. It was a detailed confession from Laura, revealing not only the truth about her origin, but also about a secret bank account where she had kept all the evidence against the Andrade family. "She didn't trust anyone," said Eduardo, looking defeated. "Not even me." "Why did the ring disappear?" asked Patricia, finally finding her voice. "And why did it reappear now?" "Because I took it," confessed Amelia, surprising everyone. "And I thought if I hid it, we could keep the past buried. But then Ricardo showed up at the dinner and I realized he always knew where the evidence was. The ring was just a distraction." A noise from downstairs made everyone jump. Heavy footsteps were coming up the main staircase. "He's back," whispered Rosa, terrified. But when the door opened, it wasn't Ricardo who was there. It was someone Patricia had never seen before, but whose face was impossibly familiar, as if she were looking at a ghost from the past. The woman at the door smiled, a smile that was both sweet and devastating. "Hello, sister," she said, looking directly at Amelia. "Did you miss me?" The shock was so great that for a moment no one could move. Laura, because it could only be her, was alive. And now she was back to settle the accounts with her past. The silence that followed Laura's entrance into the mansion was as thick as fog. Patricia observed the scene, feeling the weight of the tension in the air. Laura was different from the woman in the photographs. Her face bore marks of time and difficult experiences, but her eyes maintained the same intense glow that she had captured in the old images. "Impossible," murmured Eduardo, his voice trembling. "We saw the body." Laura laughed, a humorless sound. "You saw what I wanted you to see. Ricardo was very helpful that night, not only as a witness but as an accomplice." She walked around the room with the familiarity of someone who knew every corner. "It was surprisingly easy to fake my own death, especially when you have a twin sister willing to identify any body as yours." Amelia staggered as if she had been slapped. You planned everything." "Of course, dear sister." Laura stopped in front of the mirror, studying her reflection next to Amelia's. "I needed time to gather all the evidence, to build a solid case, and I needed you to let your guard down, to feel safe in your guilt." Patricia watched the unfolding events with fascination and horror. The ring on the floor shone under the room's light, like a silent reminder of all the lies and betrayals that had led to that moment. "Ricardo was not only my driver," continued Laura, now turning to Eduardo. "He was a private investigator. For years, he helped document every suspicious transaction, every obscure deal of the Andrade family, including, of course, the truth about my separation from Amelia." "It was my father's idea," said Eduardo, his voice barely audible. "He found out about the two sisters, about the inheritance that should be divided. He couldn't allow the Andrade fortune to be shared. So he orchestrated everything," completed Laura. "The supposed abandonment, Amelia's adoption, my sending to the orphanage, a sad story of a mother who couldn't raise two daughters." Her smile was as sharp as a blade. "But he made a mistake. He left the ring with the documents." Rosa, who until then had been observing everything in silence, took a step forward. "I knew there was something wrong. On the night of the supposed accident, I saw Ricardo helping you out the back of the mansion." "Always observant, Rosa," commented Laura. "That's why I had to ensure your silence. The money I left for your family every month bought your discretion, didn't it?" The old cook lowered her head, ashamed. Patricia now understood why Rosa always avoided talking about the past. "But why come back now?" asked Ottavio. "Why not just expose everything?" Laura walked to the window, observing the night garden. "Because revenge served cold is more satisfying, and because I needed to make sure that Amelia was involved as much as Eduardo." "I didn't know," protested Amelia. "Not about the original plan, about our separation. I only found out when—" "When you found me with Eduardo," completed Laura. "When you realized who I was, and still went ahead with the wedding. When you decided to remain silent about the truth even after my supposed death." The weight of guilt was visible on Amelia's face. Patricia realized that each person in that room carried their own share of responsibility in the plot that had destroyed Laura's life. "What do you want?" asked Eduardo finally. "Money, public recognition." Laura picked up the ring from the floor, twirling it between her fingers. "I want justice. The documents that Ricardo gathered are enough to destroy not only the Andrade reputation, but to prove the fraud that separated two sisters. Every illegal transaction, every bribe, every lie. It's all documented." "You can't do this," whispered Amelia. "It would destroy everything." "I can and I will," replied Laura. "Unless—" At that moment, a new character entered the scene. Ricardo appeared at the door, carrying a thick folder. "All the documents are here," he said, "including the originals that prove the separation of the sisters." Laura took the folder, leafing through its contents with satisfaction. "Now, let's discuss the terms of my clemency." But before she could continue, something unexpected happened. Patricia, who had remained silent observing everything, noticed a disturbing detail. A shadow moving in the mirror's reflection, someone approaching silently from behind Laura. "Look out!" shouted Patricia, but it was too late. The sound of a gunshot echoed through the mansion, followed by Amelia's horrified scream. The folder fell from Laura's hands, scattering documents all over the floor. The ring rolled under the bed, once again a silent witness to a tragedy. In the midst of the chaos that ensued, Patricia clearly saw the shooter, and the revelation took her breath away. It was someone no one expected, someone whose role in that story was much deeper and more sinister than anyone could have imagined. The night was not over yet, and the darkest secrets of the Andrade family were yet to come to light. Time seemed to freeze the moment the gunshot echoed through the mansion. Laura stumbled forward, her hand pressed against her shoulder, while everyone present looked in shock at the figure emerging from the shadows, Rosa, the old cook, still holding the smoking gun. "I couldn't let you destroy everything," said Rosa, her voice trembling but determined. "Not after all these years protecting this family's secrets." Patricia acted on instinct, rushing to help Laura while Ricardo and Ottavio moved to disarm Rosa. Chaos took over the room. Amelia was screaming. Eduardo was trying to reach the phone. Documents fluttered through the air like leaves in a storm. "You don't understand," said Rosa, letting the gun fall. "It wasn't just about money or inheritance. It was about protecting the real Andrade's secret." Laura, leaning on Patricia, laughed bitterly despite the pain. "So we're finally going to know the whole truth. How much more are you hiding, Rosa? How much more are you all hiding?" Rosa looked at Eduardo, a silent communication passing between them. It was Eduardo who finally spoke, his voice laden with defeat. "Rosa is not just our cook. She was my mother's confidant, and guardian of a secret that would change everything." "Your mother?" questioned Amelia, confused. "What does your mother have to do with this?" "Everything," replied Rosa. "Mrs. Andrade. She was the real mother of Laura and Amelia." The revelation fell like a thunderbolt upon everyone present. Patricia felt Laura shudder under her hands, while Amelia swayed, needing to lean against the wall. "Impossible," whispered Amelia. "Our mother died in childbirth." "No," continued Rosa, tears now running freely down her wrinkled face. "She was Helena Andrade, married to Eduardo's father. When she found out she was pregnant by another man, with twins, the scandal would have destroyed the family. So she faked her own death, gave birth in secret, and abandoned her daughters," completed Laura, her voice as sharp as broken glass. "Separated them to protect the precious Andrade reputation." "She never forgave herself," defended Rosa. "She spent the rest of her life watching you from afar, through me. She was the one who ensured that Amelia was adopted by a good family, that Laura had the best possible treatment at the orphanage." "And the ring?" asked Patricia, remembering the object that had started the whole story. "It was hers," replied Eduardo. "The only object that connected the two sisters, that proved their true origin. When Laura found it, my father realized that the truth could come out. That's why he orchestrated my death," completed Laura, "to protect not only the fortune but the Andrade name." At that moment, sirens began to sound in the distance. Someone, probably another employee of the mansion, had called the police upon hearing the shot. "It doesn't matter anymore," said Laura, straightening up despite the wound. "The documents that Ricardo gathered are not just about financial fraud. They are letters. Letters from Helena Andrade confessing everything, every lie, every manipulation." Rosa slumped into a chair, suddenly looking very old and tired. "She died a few months ago. Her last wish was that the truth would come out, that her daughters would know that despite everything she loved them." Patricia, still supporting Laura, watched as that revelation affected everyone differently. Amelia had shrunk into a corner, crying silently. Eduardo seemed to have aged years in minutes. Ottavio and Ricardo remained on guard, watching Rosa's every move. "So that's why you shot me?" asked Laura to Rosa. "To protect Helena's last secret?" "I shot you because I promised her I would protect you all," replied Rosa. "Even if it meant protecting you from yourselves, the scandal wouldn't just destroy the Andrades, it would destroy the life Amelia built, your own revenge, everything you fought for." The sirens were closer now. Soon the mansion would be surrounded by police, and that story, that secret guarded for so many years, would become public. "There's still time," said Rosa, pleading. "The documents. We can destroy them. Keep Helena's secret. Allow her to rest in peace." Laura looked at Amelia, a moment of understanding passing between the sisters. Years of anger, betrayal, and pain condensed into a single look. "No," said Laura finally. "No more secrets, no more lies. Our mother may have chosen silence, but we won't do the same." Amelia slowly got up, walking until she was next to her sister. "Laura is right. It's time for the truth." At that moment, as the lights of police cars began to illuminate the mansion's windows, Patricia realized that she was witnessing not only the end of an era of secrets, but the beginning of something new. The ring, still hidden under the bed, was no longer a symbol of betrayal and separation, but a reminder that even the most painful truths need to come to light. But the night was not over yet. As the police went up the mansion stairs, one last secret, perhaps the most shocking of all, was yet to be revealed. A secret that would forever change the fate of the Andrade sisters and everyone involved in that plot of lies and redemption. The police stormed the master bedroom of the Andrade mansion, finding a scene that seemed straight out of a Gothic novel. Laura wounded, Rosa disarmed, documents scattered all over the floor, and the air thick with tension and revealed secrets. But it was Patricia who noticed first. While everyone was giving their statements to the police, she saw something shining under the bed. It wasn't the ring, but something different. She discreetly bent down and picked up the object, an old locket that must have fallen from the folder of documents. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside there was a sepia photograph and a small folded piece of paper. The photo showed Helena Andrade, young and radiant, holding 2 babies. But it wasn't just Laura and Amelia in the picture. There was a third child. "Rosa," Patricia called, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think I found something you should see." The old cook approached, and upon seeing the locket, all the blood drained from her face. "Where did you—" "What is it?" asked Laura, noticing Rosa's reaction. "What else are you hiding?" Rosa held the locket with trembling hands. "Helena had triplets," she finally revealed. "Not twins, triplets." The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia stumbled to a chair, while Laura stared at the photograph, as if she could extract the truth from it by the force of her gaze. "The third child," continued Rosa, her voice choked, "didn't survive the birth. Or at least, that's what Helena made us believe all these years." "Made us believe?" questioned Eduardo, his face ashen. "What do you mean?" Rosa unfolded the small piece of paper from the locket. It was a birth certificate. Helena couldn't bear the idea of separating the 3 sisters, so she made the most difficult choice. She kept one of the daughters with her, hidden from the world, raised as a servant of the family, completed Patricia, the pieces finally fitting together. As a cook, all eyes turned to Rosa, seeing her for the first time not as the faithful old servant, but as the third Andrade sister, the one who had remained in the shadows, observing, protecting, guarding the secrets of the family that was secretly hers. "That's why you shot Laura," said Amelia, her voice trembling. "Not to protect the Andrade secrets, but to protect your sisters." "Helena told me the truth on her deathbed," explained Rosa. "She made me promise that I would keep you both safe, no matter the cost. I had already failed once. When I couldn't prevent your separation, I couldn't fail again." Laura, still pressing the wound on her shoulder, laughed bitterly. "So our own sister spent her life serving us, watching us, participating in all the lies and manipulations." "I participated because it was the only way to stay close to you," replied Rosa. "So I to ensure that, even separated, even without knowing the truth, you were protected." The police officers observed the scene with growing confusion, but Ricardo stepped forward, holding another folder of documents. "There's more," he said. "Helena not only left letters confessing the truth about the triplets, she left something else, her will." Eduardo paled even more. "Will?" "Yes," confirmed Ricardo. "To one that divides the entire Andrade fortune equally among her 3 daughters, Laura, Amelia, and Rosa." "Impossible," protested Eduardo. "The Andrade fortune belongs—" "To the Andrade family," interrupted Laura. "And who is more Andrade than the 3 daughters of Helena?" Patricia observed how the revelation affected each person in the room differently. Amelia seemed devastated and relieved at the same time. Laura maintained her hard expression, but her eyes betrayed a confusion of emotions as she looked at Rosa, her sister, her protector, who had been by her side throughout her life without her knowing. Rosa remained silent, the locket clutched in her wrinkled hands, decades of secrets and sacrifices finally coming to light. "What do we do now?" asked Amelia finally. Laura looked at the wound on her shoulder, then at Rosa, and finally at her twin sister. "First, let's take care of this gunshot wound. Then we'll have a lot to talk about as sisters." The police began to organize the situation. Rosa would be detained for the shooting, but considering the extraordinary circumstances and her advanced age, special arrangements would be made. Ricardo handed over all the documents to the authorities, ensuring that the truth about the Andrade family would be preserved as evidence. As paramedics entered the room to attend to Laura, Patricia bent down once more, searching under the bed. Her fingers found the ring, that small object that had initiated the whole revelation of secrets. As she picked it up, she noticed something that no one had noticed before, a delicate inscription on the inside. 3 stars joined by a single glow. Helena had left her message there all those years ago, a symbol of the 3 daughters that fate had separated, but that time had finally reunited. The Andrade mansion would never be the same after that night. But as she observed the 3 sisters, each carrying their own scars, their own truths, Patricia realized that sometimes the darkest secrets need to come to light so that true healing can begin. On the horizon, the first rays of the sun began to appear, promising a new day and with it, the chance for a new beginning for the family that had been torn apart, and now, finally, had the opportunity to rebuild itself. Time passed over the Andrade mansion like a river flowing over ancient stones, smoothing edges that once seemed insurmountable. The changes came gradually, like the transformation of the seasons. Rosa served a brief house arrest, considering her role in the story and her age. During this period, Laura and Amelia visited her regularly. At first, the meetings were tense, laden with the weight of secrets kept for so long. But little by little, the 3 sisters began to build a relationship that transcended the past of lies. Patricia remained at the mansion, no longer as a housekeeper, but as a close friend of the family. It was she who suggested transforming the old mansion into a foster care center for orphaned children, a way to honor Laura's story and create something positive from the pain of the past. "Sometimes we need to lose everything to find what really matters," Laura said one day, while watching children playing in the garden that had once witnessed so many dark secrets. Eduardo left the mansion, unable to live with the consequences of his past choices. Before leaving, he handed Amelia all the remaining family documents, including never-revealed letters from Helena. "She watched us every day," said Rosa, reading the letters with her sisters. "Every birthday, every important moment, she recorded everything." Helena's will was carried out according to her last wishes. The Andrade fortune was divided equally among the 3 sisters, but they decided to use a large part of the money to finance the foster care center and create a fund to help separated families reunite. Ricardo remained close to the family, now officially working as an investigator for the foster care center, helping to reunite separated families. His dedication to exposing the truth about the Andrade sisters had turned into a life mission. Otavio retired, but continued to live in a small house at the back of the property. His stories about the years in the mansion became favorites among the children of the center. The ring, that small object that had triggered the whole story, now occupied a special place in the mansion's library. Beside it, a photograph of the 3 sisters, not the old one in sepia, but a new one, taken on the day the foster care center was inaugurated. "You know what's most ironic?" commented Amelia with Patricia, observing the photograph. "We spent so much time looking for the ring, but the real treasure was right under our noses the whole time." Patricia agreed, thinking about how Rosa had faithfully served the family for years, guarding her secret, while watching her sisters closely. "Helena knew what she was doing when she engraved the 3 stars on the ring," said Laura, joining them. "As she knew that one day we would need that reminder of who we really are." Rosa, who now wore elegant dresses instead of her old cook's uniform, smiled upon hearing her sisters. Helena used to say that the truth is like water. It can be contained for a while, but it always finds a way to flow. The foster care center flourished, becoming known not only for reuniting families, but for its commitment to keeping siblings together. The three Andrade sisters personally oversaw each case, ensuring that no child would go through what they had gone through. One afternoon, as the sun set over the mansion, Patricia found the three sisters in the old master bedroom, now transformed into a reading room for the children. They were sitting together, Rosa in the middle, holding the locket she had kept for so long. "Sometimes I wonder," said Rosa softly, "if Helena would be proud of what we did with her legacy." "She would be," replied Patricia, remembering all the revelations, all the pains and joys they had witnessed in that same room. "You transformed a story of separation into one of union." The sun cast golden shadows through the windows, illuminating the ring on its pedestal. The three stars engraved on its inside seemed to shine with a light of their own, no longer a symbol of secrets and betrayal, but of redemption and hope. "You know what I learned from all this," said Laura, breaking the contemplative silence, "that sometimes the greatest treasures are not the ones we seek, but the ones that have been with us all along." Amelia took Rosa's hand, and Laura did the same on the other side. Three sisters, united not only by blood but by a journey of discovery and forgiveness. Patricia observed the scene with a smile, knowing that she had witnessed not only the resolution of a mystery, but the birth of something much more precious, a family that had found its way back to each other, transforming old wounds into bridges to the future. The Andrade ring still shone in its place of honor, but its true value was no longer in the gold or the precious stones. It was in the story it told, a story of three stars that, after years of wandering separately in the darkness, finally found their way back to the constellation they should always have formed. And so, the Andrade mansion, which had once been the stage for so many secrets and separations, became a beacon of hope and union, a reminder that it is not blood ties that make a family but love, truth, and the courage to face the past to build a better future. The mystery of the ring had ended, but the story it helped reveal would live on through the lives transformed at the foster care center, in the stories told to the children, and, above all, in the rediscovered love between three sisters whom fate had separated, but whom time and truth had finally reunited. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the world of captivating stories. I trust you found today's narrative as engaging as I did. If you enjoyed this exploration into fascinating and compelling narratives, kindly indicate your appreciation by liking this video. Are you watching on mobile? Show your appreciation with a double tap for hype. For more captivating stories and journeys into the heart of compelling storytelling, please subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss a single upload. Your thoughts and interpretations are most welcome. Please share your perspectives on today's story in the comments below. And if you believe others would find this content engaging, please consider sharing the video with your network. Until our next journey into the world of captivating tales, I bid you farewell.